Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome to the Christopher Marc Show. My name is Christopher Marc, and this is I don't know how to describe her. She is like a unicorn in what she does. This is Joyce. So, Joyce, can you tell everybody your full name and what you do?
Hey, my name is Joyce Thomas, and I am an artist. So anything that involves art, I do because I love to create. I paint, I sculpt, I draw a little bit. I do a lot of jewelry making. So pretty much anything that you want that involves creating, I'm your girl.
So, let me ask you this: like, what got you into it? Like, was you like, hey, you saw like this rock, and then you start putting rocks together? Like, how did this work? How did you start with jewelry?
Well, with jewelry, that just came in the process of my creativity.
Hmm.
Before jewelry, it was just, card making. I would make a lot of cards and the drawing. So I started engaging in art at a
Hmm.
very young age in like elementary school. And I remember my first grade teacher actually telling my parents, I want to say it was like a turtle that I drew. And she's like telling my parents, your daughter has a lot of artistic skills. She's very talented. And I still remember that was in the first grade. And and ever since I kind of like, dabbled in it here and there. And several years ago, maybe like over a decade ago, I once was in a relationship that was very toxic. And during that relationship, I actually took my artistic skills and I started engaging back in to creating. And it was mostly cards and drawing and things of that nature.
Hmm.
And even repurposing stuff. Like I've repurposed boxes and things of that nature. And it was my way of getting out of that domestic violence, like getting my mind mentally removing myself from it,
Right.
even though I was physically still going through it. So I was trying to find peace and serenity from it. And from that emerged Green Creations. So I called it Green Creations, and it was just my way to get away. And then when I did physically finally get me and my child out of that situation, and I moved back home, and I kind of still engaged in art in some ways. I still continue to make cards and things of that nature, just as not as often. Um, I was trying to just take care of my son, and it was just me and my son being a single mother. Um, and as I continue to move on with my son, I found myself engaging more and more in it. And then Arts of Arts reemerged and I rebirthed the company under Arts of Arts.
Mhm.
So the rebirth and of Arts of Arts is mainly to support my child's. First and foremost, he has special needs. So he has a lot going on as far as medically. He has, epilepsy, seizures that was came from hydrocephalus, and he's cortically visually impaired. Um, he has developmental delays, intellectual disabilities, mental delays. He don't talk, he don't walk. It's pretty much like dealing with a 2-year-old. And being a stay-at-home mother and having to pretty much watch him because where I live, I can't really put him in school. Um, at this point, the school systems hasn't really been helpful to me. So I have to stay at home with him and find a way to create income. So I have been at home creating income, and that emerged my jewelry line. Um, the cards and everything was cool. The repurposing is cool, but the jewelry is something that I found that I can do that's more effective. So that's pretty much where the jewelry line came from. And my creativity just took off. It started off small and then it kept growing and growing.
So, can we take a deep breath here? That's
Sorry.
like you do a lot. Like you do so much, and it's like amazing. So, let me ask you this, like, and I'm saying take a deep breath in a sense of like with all of that you do, it's like it, you know, for some people, um, to find that to be under different conditions and circumstances, like, you know, it's hard to find out like what you love amongst that. You know what I mean? Like to create something that is like that's going to be beautiful and help other people and make them feel better. Like, so what was it that um like that sparked anything? Like, was it that like was it a moment for you? Was it a particular moment where it was like, hey, I'm, you know, I don't know, maybe taking a shower or something like that, and you're just like, aha, this is going to be that thing that like I'm going to start doing to make myself feel better.
Just art and all has always put me at a mind, like at a state of mind where I'm in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Just creating in general has always put me in a state of peace. I've always struggled with issues growing up. I struggled dealing with certain situations, so I had to escape, and my escape has always been art and creating. So I wouldn't say so much more. I don't know if it was more of a aha moment. I know I've been told by a friend of mine before that I should engage in maybe making jewelry. I remember when I had moved back home, my friend, her name is Vishali, a great friend of mine that I've known since I was like in high school. So she knows that I'm very creative, and she's like, maybe you should try making jewelry. That'd be good. So that whole scene replayed in my mind, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I might just try to make some jewelry. So at that point, I'm like, let me try my hand at jewelry. I've always been interested in it. I always told myself I'm going to do it. I never did it. Let me start. And I started, and I seen some sales, and I seen interest in that, and people had interest in it. So it just continued to grow from there.
So so let me ask you, at what point, like, I know, like, maybe, let's say, for example, like, you know how, like, maybe in high school, was there that moment where you started, like, saying, hey, I love art? Like, was it like you were bored in class and you started having that journal that you started to doodle in? Was that it? Or when did the artsy version of you was
It's
born?
always been, I think it's always been there. When my teacher told my parents that she acknowledged my artistic skills,
Mm,
at that point, it awakened something inside of me. It told myself, oh, wow. From there, it kind of, and then I guess more so, and I was in the summer of sixth grade, we had took a visit to India. We went out to India to visit family, grandparents. And I remember I started sketching, and from there, like I found the peace that I was
mm.
looking for. And I realized how much drawing and art really brought me serenity. So that peaceful moment was pretty much, I guess you would say, my actual awakening.
Gotcha.
So
So
I was about 12 years old.
you were 12.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember for me, I was remember my mom had bought me like this journal book. She was like, hey, you know, here's a journal, start writing your feelings. And so it just became like a habit for me. Like I was, even if I was like going to classes in college, like I would like ditch school and be like, all right, I'm just gonna go to like Penn's Landing, um, and just write all day. And sometimes like I would write based upon how I felt at the moment, but then sometimes I would actually listen to music and use that music as a way of kind of like creating like my own perspective on it. You know what I mean? What's being conveyed and what's being said and stuff like that. And yeah, it was that was my outlet. Then, you know, um, I always hung around a lot of artists, but I never was like, and I took an art class in college, but it was the drawing I couldn't get it. I sucked at it. I ain't gonna lie to you. I sucked at it.
Mm.
But I was good at painting.
Interesting.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, because usually there's a drawing process to get to the painting process because we sketch
Mm-hmm.
on the actual canvas before we paint it. So how did that exactly?
So, all right.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was good. Like me personally, forget the teacher. Me personally, as an artist, I felt like I was great. I felt like I was like, yeah, look at me, Van Gogh in it, right? I felt like that's what it was. But then he was just like, oh no, your lines are not straight enough, this, that, and the third. But then I was looking at everyone else and I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, everyone else is like, they're pretty basic or whatever. So then I just dropped the class. I was just like, I'm not done. But I learned like, what I needed to learn from it. And then because I was like, I like the painting class more. And I think what it was for me was the colors. Like, that's really what did it for me. The fact that you could be like, you could create any type of painting, or or you can draw it and like, just understanding like how to bring it to life. I think that was the part for me, was like, that's what drew me into it. And it made it easier for me because now I can kind of like, instead of it just being like, here's a pencil, here's, white paper that you're drawing on, you actually have, these other elements. You can bring in the pinks, the orange, burnt orange. You can bring in like the gold. You can actually give it life. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So I think those are like the moments for me where it was like, it it sparked all of these
Interesting.
interests. Yeah. And then after that, I just went on ahead and, started working with a few different artists, writing a poetry book, and then published it. And that was pretty much it. It was like, but it all stemmed from that. And then from there it was like putting on productions, stuff like that. So it was like, once you start kind of having that thing where it gives you like, it gives birth to this idea and what you want, it'll help you to kind of like see what you love. Um so my next question to you is, what is your ultimate goal with your company and what you're doing? Like, what do you because people are going to be watching this, right?
Of course.
Hey people, how y'all doing? So they're going to be watching this. So what is your manifestation moment? We're going to have a manifestation moment. What is your manifestation moment to the people?
So practically the whole purpose of my company, it has a couple of purposes. So as I mentioned, my son is special needs. He is severe and profound. So the one thing with special needs is they, not necessarily my son. My son loves music. That's his art. But with special needs overall, they tend to some form of art that
Mhm.
helps them cope. And so art therapy is huge. And some people may not know that, but it's a serious thing. It's a real thing. And so I want to be able to create events for special needs where they can, have access to free art and things of that nature to be able to create on their own. And the big goal outside of that is I want to create a shelter type environment to where I can put people in these shelters that cost them very minimal to nothing to live, and help them grow and get off the streets so they're not having to live on the streets, and they can progress, and they can achieve their goals, and they can do so much better, and have a better life for themselves and their family, because I'm huge on giving back. And I've always been big on giving back. And I feel like that would, by being able to do that, that will help so many people. And I would love to see. less people on the streets, more people in homes, more
Okay.
people with jobs, more people being able to feed their family, because no person should ever be homeless or starving.
No, no, I've actually, you're right. And I've interviewed a lot of um, people who were homeless. Um, and, just to, I don't know, just to share their story, like how did this happen? Like and then what do you need help with? Like, how can we help? And I think that you're right. Like you know, it's a shame because it's like we have all the resources like to make things happen. But
Everybody.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's just like there's money all over the place, there's grants all over the place, there's this, that, and the third. But then it's like some days you'd be thinking, like, man, do people have a conscience anymore? Like, I'm like, do y'all realize like, you could be in this situation that this person's in right now? Like just like that. And I
I
think a
think
lot of people don't think about that.
because I think a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of good people in the world that do help, but there's also a lot of people that become millionaires and billionaires, or like, they just have all the money in the world and they just become greedy with it, you know, and
Yeah.
they don't want to, they feel like, oh, I worked hard for this, so why should I have to give? And, it's like a good friend of mine. Recently, he just said, Dominic, actually, he said to me, you know, I'm not worried about the money because money comes and money goes. And like you said, you just said we can be in that same predicament in a snap of a finger.
Yeah.
So money comes and money goes. So why are we so focused on trying to hold on to every single penny if your pennies are beyond immeasurable? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I feel like if I have the funds to help people, why wouldn't I? Because we can all be in that position. I've been in the places where I needed help and I had the help. So I just want to be able to do the same for others. I just feel like, why would I be so stingy?
Man, nah, man. See why I said the unicorn thing? You see why I said that? Yeah, that's a very rare thing. And um, to it's a gift, but it's a very rare thing to um, have be in a situation where you maybe like, hey, I need help with stuff for myself. And your first thought, like your first instinct is basically say, hey, you know what? Okay, now once I have help for myself and I can like take care of my basic needs and to be able to do what I need to do, I'm going to take everything that I have and I'm going to help other people. Most
That's
people don't do that. And a lot of times people always think to themselves, they're like, like you pointed out with people who become successful, they always say that, oh, well, I worked hard for this. And
hmm
what you don't realize is that, yes, you probably did work hard for this, but what you also don't realize is that, um, you know, this was taken from someone, right? Like when you look at people who are homeless, when you look at people who are deprived, people who are struggling all over the world, you have to realize that like they there's things that they don't have, and those things are have because so that you can have what you have. Like, and I remember I gave this example to somebody. I was like, I said, um, a homeless man and a rich man are equal. And a person like they were saying, they was like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? And I said, well, listen, let me explain something to you. I said, one, like, you can look at a person who doesn't have anything, but when you talk to them, you realize really quickly that they are, they have peace with them. They don't have to worry about a lot of things, even though they don't want to be in their situation. Some people don't, but then I've met people where they're like, you know, I'm all right. But then you have the person who's rich and they're miserable. They have to stress about this, that, and the third. And it's really just because they didn't take that time to, you know, give back and give back to other people. So, but to be honest with you, I really admire you for what your manifestation moment and what you're getting ready to do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, I also look back into the Bible, and I always tell people, well, there's a verse in the Bible. I was just looking it up so I can quote it exactly for what it says, but I don't know what version this is, but I think it's the King James. But it does say Mark 8, verses 34 to 38, for what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?
Mhm.
So you can have all the money in the world, but what benefit does it do if you're so immersed in it? You know, the love of money, because for the love of money is the root of all evil. And people get so immersed in that money, they forget that money is to use to help others. Also, I always say that God puts us all on this earth for a reason, and we all have a purpose.
Yeah.
No,
Like
so
I've seen
I
so many. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm done.
Oh no, I'll say I've seen so many people where they've like this one guy, he became a multimillionaire, and he said, I was so depressed. He was like, I was so depressed. I didn't want to like live anymore. So his friend was like, hey, well, listen, won't we just like go and travel to, I think he went to, what was it, Kenya? Went to Kenya. And he traveled there. He noticed that everybody was happy. He's like, but they didn't have anything. They didn't have what he had. They didn't have the cars, the this, the that, the third. He's like, they were just happy. And he was just like, this is the reason. Like this is the thing I need to connect to. Like, and he realized in that moment that he lost himself. He lost himself in his greed and pursuit of, you know, needing wealth and things like that. And most things is just a balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a balance. That's all. And so like he went there, he was like, listen, I'm gonna build, like, he said, you know, what do you guys need here? He said he went and built a school. That's where he poured his money into. Because it's like, what people don't realize is that God, if he blesses you in life, those blessings that he give you, they're not yours.
To bless
It's
others.
almost, they're for others. They're for you and they're for others. And so it's like, think about it like, you know, if he's giving it to you, he's letting you hold on to a treasure. But you also have to remember that that treasure is designed for you to give away. Like if you were, and I give this example, like if you had like a whole factory of food, right? And you were like, this is all mine. I'm gonna eat all this cereal. Imagine you had the factory of Walmart. Right? Like, you know how they got like cereal, milk, all this other stuff, and that was all yours. That was just yours.
Like
You
the
would
Willy
be,
Wonka factory.
yeah, like you had, everything was yours. You would just be like, you know, and when people come by, hey, can I have, you know, a loaf of bread? Can I have some peanut butter and some jelly? And they'll be like, you'd be like, oh, no, you can't have that. That's how rich people are. They're like, they have all these things and they can spare it. But then it's like, no. But then you have people like yourself who go above and beyond to actually help other people. And, you know, and can be in a situation where most people don't aren't strong enough, and being strong is hard. I'm gonna tell you, like, being strong is hard, but you're strong enough to create something beautiful out of the situation. And I think that's the most amazing thing about what you do. So
I
so
think for me, not to cut you off,
No, take your time.
I think for me, the place of wanting to give so bad. So, of course, we see poverty in America.
Mhm.
We see people in the streets. It wasn't until I started visiting India. I went to India 3 times in my entire life. And I remember walking outside of the airport and seeing people literally like nothing else. Like America, compared to America, this was on a whole different level. Back to back, touching each other, back to back to back to back on both sides of the wall, sleeping right outside the airport. People there, it's so much poverty there at the times that I went. And people with missing limbs just on the streets, nowhere to go, poor children stealing like bananas and stuff just to eat because they're starving. And I remember that movie Slumdog Millionaire that came out.
Right.
That has so much realism in it when it shows the poverty in India. And that for me was a huge like wake up call. And I think my giving spirit also, it actually comes from my father. I see my father give to the poor. I see, when we would go to India, he would always give. And I remember like he would, and I see this a lot with Indian people, where they have relatives back home and just even other cultures, and they have relatives back home that can make it to America because everybody's dream is let's make it to America for better education, better opportunities. They try to give what they like when they make money. They try to buy stuff and send it back home to their relatives, so they have what they don't have. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think that's it brings you down to earth.
Yes. You have to see I think that every single person in this world needs to go visit that lives in America or other wealthy countries need to go visit a third world country or city or whatever to actually understand poverty for what it is. That'll wake you up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's like I think that's the one thing people forget. It's like, you think that, man, oh man, what I'm going through, I'm struggling. It's like, no, like you are based upon what you know of. So based upon what you are struggling. But if you saw someone else going through something way worse than you, you got to walk in the park.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I think that is the that's the thing is like you have to keep that in mind, like to just bring yourself back to reality and keep in mind that if you get anything in life, just make sure you give it away. Make sure you give it away and just, do what you need to do for yourself. Make sure, because as human beings, we don't need much. Like you need groceries, you need
Yes.
money, you know what I mean? You need money to be able.
Clothes.
Yeah, like you don't really need much. And I think that, once you start to realize and accept that you don't, and you start realizing like, okay, how can I give back? Some people give back and, they're looking for some type of return from it. But I say like, I believe in that, what you give out, you get back tenfold. I'm a firm believer of that because I've had a lot of lessons happen in my life, whether that's through my family, whether that's through things people have done for me. And I'm so thankful for that. But I think that that's as a result of me just constantly just being that person that says, hey, all right, who can I help? Who can I be there for? Who can I, support? And so, yeah. So before we wrap all of this up, one thing I want to ask you is, how can people find you and what you do and support you and stalk you and be like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, how can how can people do that?
They can go ahead and visit my Instagram page. That's pretty much where everything is on. On the Instagram page, there is a link to my Etsy store. If there's something on the Instagram that you see that's not on my Etsy, just message me and I can make sure that it gets put on the Etsy store whenever they're ready to buy it. If there's something that they see or that they see that they're inspired by but want their own version, also message me. I work with clients all day long. And I work with your vision to make your vision a reality. So again, IG is going to be Arts of Hearts. It is ARTSOFHEARTS. So that is Arts of Hearts.
Good question. When you came up with the name, were you playing cards or something? Like, was that like a no?
No,
I have to ask. I always wanted to ask you this because I was like, Arts of Hearts. I'm like, man, this sounds like one of them, like, you know, like a royal flush. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yeah, you got the Arts of Hearts. Like, you know what I mean? But I was, you know, you're not a card player.
Oh, I am a card player, but
You are.
I love me some spades. It's spades all day. But
see, I knew it, man. I knew it. I had a feeling. I had a feeling. I had a feeling. Yeah, guys. So you want to go and check out Joyce and what she does. She's also a part of our community here at Dreamer Society, and so you can check her out as well. She has a profile. So I'll have, when you go to her profile, you can connect to her, check out her Instagram, find her, follow her, support her in her journey of manifestation and what she does, and, you know, sharing her beauty with the world. All right. Joyce, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being on the podcast.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.